first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello and welcome back to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. So however, or whenever you're watching, thanks for doing so. Don't forget you can download the Fox 12 Oregon app and watch us live or after the fact. For this segment today, we're going to be talking about the Hanford Site in Washington. This is the site where part of the work for the Manhattan Project, as you can see there on your screen, took place and has been a site of a nuclear cleanup, essentially, for the last several decades. And there is a big moment that they just had in taking down one of those stacks from one of the nuclear reactors there. And we wanted to actually reach out to Hanford and talk about this, what this means for this particular stack, what this means for the cleanup as a whole, and where they're at, and just really get a little bit more information from the people on the ground who are doing that. We talked to Ray Geimer and Bob Wilkinson, two very integral parts of the work there at Hanford, as you'll find out in this interview. But we want to go ahead and run this for you now. We'll be laying over some video as well showing what we're talking about. But here we go. It's talking about Hanford.
My name is Bob Wilkinson. I currently have the honor and privilege to be the president here for Central Plateau Cleanup Company, and we're one of the site contractors that's doing demolition of facilities and building structures and remediation of waste sites on the Hanford site, and then ultimately the groundwater remediation activities for ultimately getting the site back to its normal preservation area.
All right, and Ray?
Yes, I am Ray Geimer, and I'm the manager of the Hanford site. And so I'm a government employee, and as such, I'm responsible for all of the operations that happen here at Hanford.
That's a lot of responsibility for both of you right there, just to explaining those. Well, I think to give everybody a concept, you know, certainly everyone's familiar with the name Hanford in the Northwest. But would you mind giving us an overview of just the site currently and some of the cleanup effort that's going on there right now?
Yeah, happy to do so. I'm happy to actually report that Hanford is probably in its most active cleanup phase in its history. I've been here for 11 years now, and I've seen a real acceleration in the cleanup in just the time that I've been here. We've got a couple of really high priority projects that just got underway in the last year, and most notably, of course, is we're now starting to convert tank waste into glass and capturing the waste in glass. So that was a huge achievement last year. But other than that, there's also projects that have been going on, some for decades, and they're very nearing completion and the elimination of significant risk. And this 100K project is one of those. And with this recent stack demolition, that's just one step closer to us now being able to complete this decades-long project we've been doing to remediate the 100K reactor and eliminate the last of the reactors. The risks that have been associated with these reactors since they were constructed some 80 years ago now.
And we're talking about, I guess, to go into specifically, you know, like this stack that came down. Could you tell us about that site right there and what was going on there? Because from what I understand, this is going back to the Manhattan Project era.
Absolutely. So this reactor called the K Reactor was one of 9 reactors that was built to basically produce the fuel that converted uranium into plutonium, and then the plutonium could be separated out of the fuel by chemical process means and recovered. And the plutonium was then, of course, converted into nuclear warheads. So this reactor was one of the ones near the end. It was the one that preceded the final reactor, which was the N reactor. And the K reactors operated for a little less than a decade back in the 50s. And so they provided a good role there for a while, but then the N reactor became the workhorse of the Cold War Manhattan Project.
And what was the process like, you know, for bringing this down? As far as how long was this planned out on taking this down, and can you walk us through exactly what happened to do that?
Yeah, Greg, maybe I'll jump in and do that. The planning for this has been many months in the making. You know, obviously, when you go blow something up, you want to make sure you do it in a controlled manner and mechanism. And so we started off with a lot of structural engineering evaluations, looking at kind of the protocols by which we were going to pull it down or remove it down. including doing some survey activities, putting some environmental controls in place. We teamed up with one of what we consider to be one of the premier demolition experts in the United States to come in and work for us to do that. And so we tapped that expertise with them, put those controls in place, made sure that we had our safety systems aligned up to protect both the environment as well as co-located workers that were in and around that area before we went off to execute it. And then ultimately we safely executed it that day of the event, right? So it all kind of came to formulation right at that time.
Wow. And so when you're bringing this down, so we've seen this video, of this coming down. What do you do with that debris? Is that, I guess, to even just to understand that a little bit, like, is that debris radioactive, or is that waste debris that needs to be handled in a specific way?
It's potentially radioactive.
Okay.
That's part of the reason why we're demolishing and taking it down, to make sure that we're dealing with the remediation of that. Our plan is to rubbleize the material, which is already partially rubbleized by just the sheer fact of it coming down. But we rubbleize all of our material, and we ultimately have a safe storage space up on our Central Plateau called the HERTA facility, which is a landfill that's set up and designed specifically to store this in the long term. So we're in the process right now of containerizing that and bringing it up and transferring it up to its final destination of this landfill. Gotcha.
And how many more of these stacks are there left?
For the reactors themselves, none. So this is the last one that's coming down. There is one that remains near the B reactor, which is a national preservation, historical preservation, that one will reside for the foreseeable future from a park perspective. But this is the last one of the 9 reactors to come down.
So this is a really big moment when it comes to talking about Hanford and the cleanup there. This is the last one of those reactors.
Yeah, as Ray said, it is. We are. I've been out here on the site now for almost 34 years, and as we are on a pace of cleanup and bringing things to closure to allow us to truly remediate the site that have been a long time in the making. And it's for anybody that's been around Hanford for any time, it's a very proud moment. Just kind of as things are starting to crystallize together, it's one small piece of a larger part. Where a lot of folks are coming to bear and doing a wonderful job.
And as you mentioned, decades of work to get to these moments and to get to this as well. So when I guess talking about the cleanup of this, what happens next now in the cleanup process?
So I'll go ahead and jump back in here on this. So this to the Department of Energy, this whole area along the northern part of the site has been a really important remediation step for us. It's now safely having removed this stack is clearing the way so that we can get in and now do the real cleanup work that's left to do there. There's a 1.2 million gallon fuel storage pool that was connected to the K reactor. It was used in the 1980s to store the excess irradiated end reactor fuel that was being created while it was awaiting chemical processing at the various plutonium facilities. So now we're going to get into the actual demo, not the stacks out of the way, we can get into the actual demo of that basin. And, once that is complete, then basically that removes the source term of any radioactive material that's left, that's dispersible in any way. And then we'll put a protective cover, what we call a cocoon, over the top of the reactor building. It's basically a weather cover that'll protect the actual reactor building from any kind of weather degradation until such time as the actual reactor core can decay to a level where it's actually safe enough to go back in and remove the core and dispose of it. And that'll be the final step in finally removing all of the 9 reactors from along the northern the northern part of the site and along the banks of the Columbia River. And that'll be somewhere around 2075 when that happens.
Okay. Yeah. So it takes that long for that to decay long enough. So essentially just to recap what you were saying there, so I understand. So you'll put this cocoon over it and then it'll just sit there for 50 years or whatever, almost.
Yeah. And the decay of the reactor core components is activated steels, that just took the radioactivity from the reactor core and just became activated. All the core components, the fuels, everything else has been removed. All of the hazards have been removed from the reactor. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of those activated steels now just decaying.
When you look at it, this thinking about, this step of the cleanup, removing this stack and all the work that you've done, at the end of the day, what does this mean for people who are in that area or concerned about any contamination going into the Columbia River?
Yeah, great question, Greg. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take it first. I'll let Ray chime in right after me. I think what it's doing is demonstrating that we are systematically containerizing, stabilizing, and remediating the site in such a fashion that makes things safe for the foreseeable future, not in the shorter term. We are safe today. This just makes us safer in the longer term. And as Ray said, by us doing the activities we're doing and putting this in a cocoon situation, we effectively have remediated the hazards in a way that's safe for the long term, and allows an incremental further step in the 2075 timeframe if the cocooning part decides to be torn down. But it really puts us in a preeminent position to just continue to transition this area into the next phase.
Yeah, so I'll just add to that too. The real threat that has been a potential threat to the Columbia River has been these storage basins. So as I mentioned, 1.2 million gallons full of water and full of spent nuclear fuel. Those we've spent the last 3 decades removing carefully, methodically, the end reactor fuels out of the pool. Literally element by element, and putting them into much more safe packaging, safe geometry, well-shielded packages that are in a much better configuration than being in a storage pool that's 300 yards from the river. So we've cleaned out everything that was left in that pool. There's, of course, some residuals that are still left. And once we finish clearing, eliminating the actual pool itself, that'll basically remove all of the hazard that might have been something that could have impacted the Columbia River. So it's kind of a really big deal when we get this done.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you think the public has about Hanford and about the cleanup effort there?
I think one thing that somebody might look at this and go, okay, you blew up a stack. Is that just some symbolic, thing that you did? And, no, it's more than that for sure. It's a big deal what we just did. I mean, bringing down that stack is a very dangerous job. And it was, it took months of planning to make sure we got that correctly accomplished. It takes monitoring, inspection, maintenance, it's cost, it's all of that. And it also, like I said, clears the way for us to really move forward and finish the job. So these things that we do and these things that we display, they're not just, for eye candy. They're real. They're real accomplishments that are really demonstrating that we're moving forward with Hanford and we're cleaning up our legacy.
I don't know if you wanted to add, or anybody want to add on to that at all?
No, Greg, I think one of the misconceptions for us is, I think it's a proud but not satisfied thing for us as Hanford, right? Is it a significant accomplishment, as Ray said? It's a significant step. We're really doing the mission for the larger government, and we're reducing our financial liability for us as taxpayers, reducing the risk liability, and it's just another step along the way of a monumental steps that have been made for a long period of time, as Ray mentioned, right? And I don't think you could find a much more proud crew of people in totality, top to bottom, between contractors, the union, the Department of Energy, and everybody. The partnership working together. It's a very a lot of pride by the team that's out there doing these type of things.
Yeah, it seems like a very collaborative environment between all of these organizations, and what you have going there. Anything else that you think is really important just for the general public to know about Hanford that we didn't cover here?
Just that we are absolutely committed to doing this work safely, to doing it with a sense of urgency. We're looking for ways to accelerate this cleanup. We know what the problems are. We have them contained. We know where all the waste is. We know the quantities. We know the types. It does unfortunately take time to get these projects remediated. As I talked about, it's taken us 3 decades just to clean out the basin of the legacy that was left behind there. So we're working it hard, and we're working hard to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars.
Well, Ray, Bob, thank you both very much for joining me here today. I appreciate your time and walking through this and just explaining this to the public of what's going on. You know, as we talked about, yeah, the video is awesome. You know, it's fun to look at, but there's real meaning behind that. So that's very important to know. And yeah, thank you both for joining me here on Fox 12 Now. I really appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for having us.
All right, again, big thank you to them for joining. There's a lot of hoops that need to be gone through in order to have an interview like that when you're dealing with the government side of things. So I appreciate them going through those in order to have that conversation and just talk about what's going on there at Hanford. Obviously, something that could be a concern for anybody here, and good to know where we're at and where it still needs to go. So great conversation, and big thank you to them for joining me. This is Fox 12 Now. As I mentioned, we live stream here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. Obviously, I recorded that interview yesterday. We ran it today, but I am live, and don't forget to download the Fox 12 Oregon apps. That's a great way to watch us live and after the fact. We have so many different things on there. There's hours and hours and hours of content, and you can find whatever it is that you're into. You can look at some of our videos here, our interviews. We've done deeper dives on all kinds of different things in the science world, but we cover a wide range of topics as well. So thanks for being here. If you are watching live, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll continue on at 2 o'clock. I'm going to be talking about an Oregon robotics competition. So that's going to be an interview that we'll have live here. But in the meantime, quick break. Be right back. We'll recap some of those other stories we've been working on as well. This is Fox 12 Now.